Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Today we'll be doing a deep dive into the iPhone camera and everything you have to know about the settings to make sure you get the most out of it. Now most of you have probably already used the iPhone camera at one point or another, but what a lot of people don't know is if you go to the settings app under the camera section, there are quite a few advanced settings you can choose from here. Now the first option we have here is preserve settings. Now one thing you probably haven't even realized is if you go to the camera app and take a video for example, and you close the app out and you come back to it later, it automatically goes back to the normal picture mode. So if you're annoyed by your settings being changed every time you go back into the camera app, this is where you would save the settings so they don't get changed back to default every single time. Next option we have here is the grid. I strongly suggest everybody turn this on. It makes it so much easier to frame up your shots. And I also recommend looking into something called the rule of thirds. It basically lets you line up your shots the correct way every single time. So turn the grid lines on. It's a small little feature, but it makes a big difference. The next option here is scanning QR codes. And back in the day, you actually had to download a third-party app for QR codes to work. And not too long ago, Apple introduced QR codes into the main camera app. So all you have to do now is point your camera at a QR code and a little banner will come up on the top, letting you go to the link directly from the camera app. So keep this on, it's very handy once in a while whenever you scan QR codes. The next option here is for recording video, and this will let you choose your resolution for your video recordings. Now the option that I choose personally is 1080p at 30 FPS, and if you don't know what FPS stands for, it stands for frames per second. But there is an option for 60 FPS. And this is kind of a newer technology, not really that new anymore, but what it does, it kind of reduces the motion blur. So you see almost like a super HD effect. It's kind of hard to explain. I recommend going on YouTube and just searching for 60 FPS video, and you'll see what I mean. There's no motion blur when you're going back and forth. You see my hand right now, there's probably a little blur effect. But at 60 FPS, you reduce that blur effect, so you get a different feel and perspective toward the video. Now, depending on your iPhone, you may also have the 4K options. Obviously, 4K is much better quality, but the trade-off there is your storage will be absolutely filled with videos if you use this option. So be careful, only turn 4K on if you are intentionally trying to record something in 4K and you have the storage space to accommodate it. And the next option here is for your slow-mo resolution. You do have the option between choosing 120 FPS and 240 FPS. The higher your frame rate, the better slow motion you can get. So the more frames you record, the longer you can stretch it out and the smoother that recording will be. But one other trade-off you have is the more frames you record, the higher your frame rate, the less light your camera will be taking in. So I recommend 120 because that's usually more than enough for standard slow motion, but if you want to have really extra slow-mo, this is where you can turn 240 on. The next option here is for recording stereo sound. Just keep this on. What that really does, it lets you record both the left and right channel for a nice stereo mix. I don't see any reason for turning this off, so just keep this one on. Now the next setting here is for formats, and I want to pay a little extra attention to this because I recommend changing this from the default, which is high efficiency. I want to change this to most compatible. So Apple has this special high efficiency format called .HEVC, and if you look at your pictures on your computer, you'll see them with that extension at the end of the name. And those don't play nice with every single piece of software. So if you're like me and you tend to move files around, or you have photo projects or video projects, just keep it most compatible. Yeah, JPEGs may take up a little bit more space on your phone, but it's totally worth that compatibility that you get back in return. This also applies for videos, by the way. I strongly suggest keeping it H.264. I really don't like Apple's high efficiency video format. They don't play nice with many video softwares at all. Now, if you've changed the setting to most compatible, you'll also see that the next two settings for capturing outside the frame have been turned off, because those settings require the high efficiency format. And personally, I never use these settings, so it's not a big deal. What these settings mean is you're getting a little extra flexibility that the phone will actually capture a wider angle version of your photo that you can go back and edit later on if you decide to do so. It's kind of creepy almost because you can go back and see a wider picture than you actually thought you had. So things on the sides that you didn't normally see before are still recorded and saved on your phone. So you have that option if you like to go back and edit your pictures for a wider shot, but I never use this, so it's not a big deal for me. And the last option at the bottom here is Smart HDR. Keep this on. HDR is absolutely amazing for capturing good exposure for your photos. I just don't turn this off. Keep it on. Alright, we've covered all the options in the settings app. We're going to go into the actual camera app now and take a look at what settings are in there. Now, one thing to note, this will really depend on the iPhone that you have. I have an iPhone 11 Pro, so I do have all those portrait mode features and the zooming and whatnot. So just keep that in mind. If you don't see something, it's probably because your iPhone doesn't have that camera. Now, the first option we have here on the top right is for live photos. And I know a lot of people that don't like this, and I personally love it. And I want to explain why. First, if you go through your photos and you're scrolling through a bunch of them, it's really fun to see that live effect of your pictures moving. It's almost like they're coming to life. And then secondly, if you press and hold on a picture, you get the live photo, but you can turn that into a GIF. You can loop it, you can bounce it, and it's just a really fun little effect. And I've had so many pictures that have unexpectedly turned into GIFs because the phone caught a few seconds around the picture. On the top left, we have the flash and also the night mode option. I really don't like how the night mode only comes up when it's dark. You don't have a way of manually turning this on, so you'll only see this icon if your phone is in a dark environment. If you press the arrow button, you'll see some more options come up at the bottom. The first few we've already talked about: live photos, flash, and night mode. But now we also have some more settings like aspect ratio. And photos by default are a 4:3 aspect ratio. If you are planning to take a picture to be put into a movie or a video later, change this to 16:9, and that will take up the full screen of the video. Videos are shot in 16:9 and pictures are taken in 4:3. Now, this is also where you have the option to use the timer feature. So if you want to put your phone down and have a timer turn on, you can do that from here. And also you have the filters over here as well. There are a bunch of filters to choose from, and one thing I like a lot is you can not use any filters during the main picture, but when you go back afterwards to edit it, you can turn the filter on. Or even better, if you turn the filter on beforehand, you can go back and turn it off afterwards if you don't like it. So a lot of flexibility with editing on these phones. Now, a few more quick things. If you switch to the video option here, you can change the resolution of your video directly within the camera app. So you can change your FPS or your resolution directly from the video mode over here. Next, if you go to portrait mode, there's a new feature here for the iPhone 11s if you want to choose your distance. So before this, you had to choose the 2x all the time. You always had to be really far away for the portrait mode to work. But now you can take the portrait mode picture with the telephoto lens or the normal lens. But you could also go now, if you have iPhone 11 Pro, you can change the blurriness of the background. So this is a really cool feature because it's all artificial. You can go back and edit the amount of bokeh you want around the picture. And last but not least, within portrait mode, you have the ability to change your lighting. I don't see many people using this feature, but I love it. It's really fun to mess with, and you can go back and change it after the fact too. So there's no harm in just playing around and having fun with it. I love the studio light option. It's really dramatic and it makes for a great picture sometimes. So just play around with it. There's no harm in having some fun with your camera app. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys learned something new in this video. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe down below. I post new videos every week, and I'll see you guys next time.